Hey everybody, we are back with another book review. This book was Becoming Mrs. Lewis by Patti Callahan. It was a very interesting story. So, if you don't know anything about C.S. Lewis and his life, this book really kind of explores a lot about him. So, C.S. Lewis was single pretty much his entire life. And the book kind of hints at some potential relationships that he had, but they never became anything more than what he would call philia or philia in terms of love. And C.S. Lewis has a lot of writings on love and what love should be. Um, and so, anyway, he starts a correspondence with a lady named Joy Davidman, and she and he continue to correspond for so many years. Eventually, she winds up moving to England to start a new life, but it eventually turns into them getting married. And she doesn't live very long. She dies in her 40s, late 40s, mid to late 40s. And leaves her two boys with C.S. Lewis, and he and his brother raise them for the rest of their lives. So the whole story is really, it's a kind of fan fiction-ish because it is based on fact, and there's a lot of fact that the author put into the story, but there are parts of it that are just kind of, added for amusement and writing purposes. I didn't super hate the book, but I also didn't love it very much. And so because of that, I'm giving it a 1, like a 1.5-ish. It just, the writing style, I don't do well when writers write about other like writers and authors, because I feel like they try to channel those writers and authors, and it doesn't read well to me. So it was just a very, very slow read. I really struggled getting through this book. I started it when I was on vacation, and I couldn't get into it. I had to put it down and finish a different book, and then come back to it. And I've just every time I pick it up and I read it, I only read like a couple chapters at a time. So it's taking me a little longer to get through it, just because it wasn't holding my interest. I didn't like the writing style. But the story itself, I did a little research on Joy Davidman and C.S. Lewis and her life and stuff, and the story is really fascinating. It's a very sweet love story, especially knowing both of their backgrounds and kind of what led them together. But it's just so slow, and it's not a big book. It's not a big book at all. It's like 40 some odd chapters, but the chapters are like really short, like 2-3 pages. There's a couple that are a little bit longer, but it just didn't hold my attention. So because of that, I'm giving it a 1. That said, that was also our book club book, and so a lot of people at book club really liked it. I will say, last year I read Until We Have Faces, and that was a really good book by C.S. Lewis. And in this book, Becoming Mrs. Lewis, there's a couple chapters that talk about the development of Until We Have Faces, and that made that book make so much more sense, because I really did like Till We Have Faces. And but when I was reading it, I was like, there's some parts of it that just, they flow kind of weird, or it's kind of like all over the place. But after reading this book, I was like, I might need to go back and reread Till We Have Faces, because there was just so much in there that it's like, oh my gosh, this makes so much sense with the other story. So I really like Till We Have Faces, but yeah. So Becoming Mrs. Lewis, 1.5-ish. Just not my favorite book. But it was really down to writing style and not because of story. So if you're a person that likes that kind of writing style, this might be a book for you. I will also give you a warning. It is a little like Christian thoughts and processes, a lot of that in there because of C.S. Lewis being a late convert to Christianity, and the same thing with Joy Davidman. She was also a late convert, and so there's a lot of talk about that. So if you're not really into that kind of thing, probably not the book for you. But that said, it's really, it's not, I would not classify this as like a Christian fiction book at all. So just kind of giving that little disclaimer, because I know some people don't really like that genre. So there you have it, our next book review right before I go back to school. Going back to school, so not me as a student, as a teacher. I think everybody knows that I teach, so back to school now. But hopefully the next book will be a little bit better. I've been doing a lot of debating about next books and stuff, trying to work my way through the pile as well. So I picked up a book that I said I was going to read at the beginning of this year, and meant to read it in the first wave of books, but finally starting on that one, and then I'll go back to a couple of my series that I've been reading. So more books from the pile continue, but we also have to look forward to 2 books for my book club for August and September. So be on the lookout for those books. One of them sounds really interesting because I'm super into Agatha Christie. So one of the books is an Agatha Christie book, but the other, I don't know how I feel about it. Yeah, I won't tell you which book it is until I read it. But just based on the title, I was like, oh boy, this is gonna be a slow one, isn't it? So we'll see how those go. But thanks for watching. As always, please continue to send those book recommendations. Drop them in the comments, or send me messages, or as several people have done, they've just handed me a book. So that's fine as well. So please continue to send those book suggestions, and I'll just add them to the pile. We're on, I don't know, was this book 27 or 28? And so not even a quarter of the way through, or a little bit over a quarter of the way through my amount of books to get through for the year, and it is the end of July. So I got to get going. I got to get to reading. So hopefully we'll see kind of how the beginning of the school year goes. I might have to slow down my reading again. But thank you everyone for continuing to follow along on this journey. It's been a lot of fun. If I don't make the 108 books by the end of the year, I'm just going to keep reading until I hit that 108 books. But I will definitely read past the 108. So look forward to more book suggestions, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.